Hello everybody, this is JD. This is the second time I'm making the video because for some reason in the middle of the whole video the computer shut off. I want to talk to you about some things that are very important. And I want you to understand something, and at the end I'm probably going to repeat Einstein's theory of an idiot. Some of you get upset about it. But first thing I want to talk about is some of our great presidents. I want you to think about them. Think about them in your head. Of course, we all know George Washington is our first president. Was he a politician or not? Actually, even though he did go Continental Congress and did represent Virginia, during the Revolutionary War, he was the general in charge of the army. Was he not? And was he a politician? No. If he wasn't in the military, he was a surveyor. He was a farmer. And he was mostly self-taught. And he was a man who understood what the nation, the United States of America, needed. A lot of you don't know that he was actually offered the job of president when John Hanson got the job of president, the very first president of the United States of America. Remember, till the Articles of Confederation, the United States of America did not exist. It was colonies. And he turned it down. And he had his reasons for it. But when the Constitution was written, he accepted the nominee and was elected. And when asked, what should we call you? Because he was elected under the Constitution, he was not president under the Articles of Confederation. He looked at them and said, Mr. President. Because he knew a tradition, a culture was being born. And part of that culture is the existence of our country. That's why he's not the very first president of the United States. But he's the first constitutional president. Very learned man, very reserved, very, very knowledgeable. Self-taught. Politician? No. He didn't like politicians. Matter of fact, a lot of his writings were against politicians. But he was a humble farmer, a person of the land, a person of the country. Then we can go to Thomas Jefferson, another very well-learned man. Was he a politician? Well, he came close, but really he wasn't. He was a statesman and a writer, more of an author and writing. And some of his writings, a lot of you know quite well, is separation of church and state. And you give him credit for that original idea, but it's not his originally. Actually, he got it from someone else. Another very, very learned individual that was self-taught and a person of the people. And what happened was that they tried to trap him, some of the officials. And while they were in the temple, they said, what do we pay first, our tithes or our taxes? And this learned man said, give me a coin. They gave him a coin. Whose face is on this coin? And they all said, Caesar's! And then he said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's. That's separation of church and state, right there. And I always say, never shall the twain mix. And all that statement is what all Thomas Jefferson's writings about the separation of church and state. Because if you go through history, you'll find that when religion mixes in with politics, unnecessary vicious wars happen. You can look even to this day. Okay, now, who would you consider recently? Well, let's talk a little bit about Abraham Lincoln. Was he a politician? Well, he was self-taught. We all know that in history. And we all know that he decided he wanted to be a lawyer, so he just hung on a shingle and said, I'm a lawyer. Didn't go to no law school to become a lawyer. good speaker, but no politician. He was noted for that. Another well-taught person of the country, person who felt what the people felt, person who experienced what the people experienced. Very, very, very good president through a very, very tough time. And his desire to keep the Union together was needed at that time. Get a little more recent, Ronald Reagan, a movie actor. And that's who he was. I mean, he was a very good movie actor. He was doing quite well. He could have stayed in the business and been super rich. But instead, he became a great president. And his experience as an actor was needed at that time because we were dealing with very, very traumatic times. He had to deal with the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union. Remember the Soviet Union? How did they pick their presidents to run? Remember, everyone in the Soviet Union was required to vote. And everyone voted for a candidate. But how were the candidates picked? Because those who study the Soviet Union would know, those who haven't, really? The Communist Party, how did they pick their candidates? Well, first, understand you had to be a member of the Communist Party to hold any political office. If you were not a member of the Communist Party, you couldn't hold any of them. And they would have their little caucuses in the little areas, and they would select people for different governmental positions. Of course, when they did their presidential, they'd have primaries all throughout the country of the Soviet Union, which was actually many countries put together. And these primaries, they would select candidates. And then they would all go to the convention. And at the convention, they would then vote for and pick somebody to run for president. And then they told the people, here's your candidate, here's who you can vote for. Didn't have no other choice. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that sound like something you experienced? Think in 2008. Those of you who wanted Mitt Romney to run for president, did you have a choice? Not really, because the Republican Party said, no, you're going to vote for McCain. We selected McCain. You vote for McCain. How about you people who wanted Hillary Clinton in 2008? No, you don't get that choice. You had to vote for Obama. Why? Because they selected Obama. They had their primaries throughout the land. The Democrats did theirs. The Republicans did theirs. Then they had their conventions. And if you remember, Hillary Clinton and Obama was neck to neck. And Mitt Romney and McCain was neck to neck. Actually, Mitt Romney was ahead mostly. And then at the end, McCain came out ahead. And then at the end, they had their conventions. And out of the Democrats, they picked Obama. And out of the Republicans, they picked McCain. And what happened? Did you get the vote for the candidate in 2008 that you wanted? No. If you were a Democrat, you had to vote for Obama. If you were a Republican, you had to vote for McCain. If you were anything else, that's your choice, right? Except for about 8,970,000 people who wrote in me, JD. Now let's look at today. Are we going to continue with the same trend? Nothing good has happened. Just like the Soviet Union, we are in a problem. A big financial problem. Now, how many of you have experienced the credit card spiral or the credit spiral? Me, I have. My first wife. You know what that is? Where you couldn't even buy food without extending your credit. That's right. For you to buy anything, you had to go find credit somewhere and extend your credit. Now, a lot of people get out of that credit card spiral by declaring bankruptcy. I refuse to. Nope, not me. I refuse to declare bankruptcy. I was where I couldn't pay our bills. Our bills were more than what I brought in. For us to buy food, we had to get credit. We couldn't buy it. If something went bad in the house, we couldn't buy it without credit. I was in a real credit card spiral. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? You've been listening to the government. What did they just raise? The credit limit. Because they couldn't pay their bills unless they got more credit. They're in a credit card spiral. You think those politicians have any experience with this? No, they don't. Because they always had the extra money, the more money. I mean, look at how much they make. They don't need to worry about credit. How can they doggone run the government that they're running on credit? They have no idea how to handle that situation. And none of them are leaders. None of them is of the country. None of them has had experience with a credit spiral. Matter of fact, of all the candidates in 2008 and 2012 that had any experience with a credit card spiral is me. But I'm of the land. I'm of the people. I'm different. How about leadership? Let's see, George Washington was military. Oh, Eisenhower. We kind of skipped Eisenhower, didn't we? Eisenhower was a great president. A lot of military experience. Ronald Reagan had military experience too. I think Lincoln, of all the great presidents, and Thomas Jefferson was probably the only dude that didn't have military experience. Me, 26 years in the Navy, worked my way from E1 to Chief. Always put down there, my goal was to become CNO. Maybe I'll become Commander-in-Chief, be over the CNO. Bottom line is, and I know I'm not going to fix that tooth, and to give you an idea, how many of you said, get a new cam? Why should I buy a new cam when this one is working okay? I'm not making videos to make movies. I'm making videos to tell you information, important information. Why should I spend money I don't have for something that's really not needed? That's something for you to think about. Sure, I could buy an expensive cam, spend $200 on one or something, and presto change. I got 3 or 4 of them in the drawer. One of them might work real good. I don't know. But the bottom line is, it's not needed. The expense is not needed. So what is this all about? I've told you a lot of things, and I've had a lot of experience at dealing with credit card spirals. Matter of fact, right now I am balancing myself between my credit limit, and if I go any more, I may end up in another spiral. But I am fighting that, and I am keeping myself balanced. And that is hard to do when you're at this point. Between the store, my wife's store, ordering stuff for the holiday. You know, a store runs on credit. And that's what we are. We're running on credit. We got some wonderful items, Christmas toys. Our prices are low enough to where I know for a fact that Walmart comes in and checks our store out. Because our prices, and they always come out, for some reason, 2 cents less than what we have. Oh. And we sell some of the best helicopters, electric helicopters that you can buy. People in the flea market say that they don't even bring in the cheap garbage helicopters because they can't make any money on them. Because we have the good helicopters that's so cheap. We're staying afloat. The bottom line, people, is I've had a lot of experience dealing with credit, expense, and living. I've also had a lot of experience with leadership. 26 years in the Navy and retiring as a chief, believe me, I had a lot of experience with leadership. I'm not a politician. Some people said if I'd have been a politician, I'd been a doggone Master Chief of the Navy. But I'm not a politician. I'm straightforward. I'm direct. I'm too truthful. I've been told that through my whole life. That's the kind of candidate I am. That's the kind of president I'll be. I can't change that. You will know what your government is doing to make your life better, safer, more secure. Some of the things you're not going to like, I know you're not going to like it, because we're a very private nation, but we're not private no more. I mean, today's government is in your house, monitoring your phone calls. How unprivate can you get? The only thing that'd be less private is they put somebody in the house. When's that going to happen? So, bottom line, people, I'm telling you, it's time to put an American in the White House. It's time again to put someone who feels what the people feel, who experiences what the people experience, who dealt with this very situation that our government is in right now and successfully come out of it. How did I do it? I started a business. Really, that's what I did. Now, sure, the United States can't start a business, but the United States can fix this problem. But they need a leader. Not a leader who has all the money in the world he could spend whenever he wants. Not a leader who has never felt what it's like to doggone open a refrigerator door and see nothing and have 4 kids to feed. Yeah. We don't need a leader who has never felt those things. Not a leader who thinks Thanksgiving's a holiday, but Thanksgiving is a special day for us to give thanks to the Lord for everything we have. Not a leader that thinks Christmas is time to spend money on gifts and nothing else. Do you know I tell my wife all the time, the only Christmas gift I want is Christmas dinner. Because it's a celebration of the birth of Christ. Yes. A wonderful Christmas dinner celebrating the birth of Christ, to me, is the best Christmas gift anybody could have. The very best. My wife says, oh, we're not going to have... I said, just have a Christmas dinner. Because that's the only thing I want. Because to me, the birth of Christ is a celebration of the glorious. And that's why at Christmas we have cakes and candies and a nice dinner, because we're celebrating something wonderful. And Thanksgiving, I only have pies. Why? Because we're giving thanks to the Lord for our harvest, what we have harvested through the years. So that's why there's pies, there's turkey, there's sweet potatoes, there's things that come from the farm. At Christmas we have a roast, a ham, cakes and candies. You see the difference? Thanksgiving is celebrating the harvest, thanking the Lord. Christmas is celebrating the birth of Christ. That's what it is to me. Is this the kind of man you want to be president? Who has the leadership skills? Who has the experience, the real experience to get us out of this credit mess that Congress has put us in, and has the leadership ability to do it, and knows what tools he can use from the Constitution? And who will every day ask himself, what did I do today to make your life a little bit better as president? That's the kind of man I am. Think about that. Or you can do what Einstein says. And I say, I agree with him 100%. The definition of an idiot is a person who does the same thing over and over and over again. Nothing ever changes. But they still do it over again, always expecting a change. Political parties didn't work in the Soviet Union, and just because we got two of them, you think it's any better? It isn't working in this country. It's time for us to say as a people, the reign of the political party is over. It's time for Americans to be part of the government. People of the country. People of experience of the nation. If you look throughout the world, the greatest leaders, the greatest, not the most powerful, but the greatest leaders were always people of the country. Not politicians, not religious leaders, always the people of the country. Now, the ones who got us into major wars and major disputes and slaughtered and killed millions of people were always politicians. People of the party. That's what you find throughout the world. Now, I'm saying to you, it's time for us in the United States to say, no more. It's time for an American who experiences the problems that our country has and is leader enough to get them out. Remember my policy about the world. Every single country has the right to exist. And no other country has a right to tell them how to govern themselves. It's only up to the people within that country that has that right. And we as Americans need to start practicing that. And I always truly believe charity begins at home first, before you go outside. I believe ensure that the American family, I don't care how it's made up. I don't care if the parents are single. I don't care if they're double or if they're the same sex. I don't care. And the children are taken care of and have a secure future. Then we can look at the rest of the world. These are the things I truly believe in. And I have the leadership ability, and I have the guts, and I understand that as a leader, there will be times when people hate you. But my shoulders are broad enough to carry the nation on it and have the hatred of Congress. Because to me, you are the ones that matter. So, now this is a brief about me and the history of our country. You better start deciding. Is it time for an American to be president, or do we still want politicians? You've already seen politician after politician after politician. And the only promise I promise you is that I'm bringing your voice, yes, your voice, to Washington, D.C. That I will do. Believe me, Congress is going to hate it, but I'm going to do it. You all have a nice day. This is JD, your presidential candidate for 2016. That's going to put you, each and every one of you, in the White House, one way or the other. Thank you. Have a nice day.